Welcome to the live Ergo developer update. With me tonight, I have the amazing, the elusive, the very busy Joseph Armeanio. How you
How are
doing,
you
Joe?
doing? I'm doing all right. Busy week. What is it today? Tuesday.
I've lost track, honestly.
Feels a little deeper in the week than Tuesday, but that's how life goes sometimes.
It does. It does. It's. I like to say what a week it's been today. You say that on Monday. That's half my life usually. Let me stick the link in chat so people can
Sure.
join us. There we go. Live link is in chat. All right, guys, we're live with the Ergo update. Joe managed to find some colored beverage in his closet. I am also cheersing to Ergo and its success.
Yeah.
And we're going to bring you all the news of the ecosystem from last week and maybe some bullshit along the way. We'll see. Joe, what do you
What's the
want to talk
latest?
what do you want to talk about tonight?
I don't know. I haven't been paying that much attention, to be honest. What's the latest bullshit in the crypto space? There's always something going on.
Well, I think we got some more official pumping of the Trump token from Trump's Truth Social account. I saw that this week.
Cool.
Um, I don't know where to start with that stuff, Joe. I when are the people that are using blockchain for like its intended purpose going to outnumber the people that are just using it to get rich quick or steal money from other people? When's that going to happen, Joe?
It's hard to say what, I mean, it's hard. In my opinion, it's hard to say. Like, I think we're going to see a split in the crypto space at some point, right? Because, well, I mean, if you look at like what's trending and popular at this point, it's like institutional adoption, using stable coins to absorb treasuries, creating kind of, let's say, the regulatory beginning of stable coins. I think that generally once something is under the purview of regulators, that tends to move more in a ratchet, like one direction, rather than like it starts and then that's it forever, right? So I think we're probably going to see some kind of public-private partnership digital money, that may not have the greatest assumptions in terms of like
Oh yeah,
surveillance
we're gonna
and
see a lot of that stuff. Yeah.
the ability to seize it. Stable coins more. We're probably going to be moving in the direction where there's just a lot more financial surveillance that's possible on public blockchain, right? And then the question is, okay, well, how do we get to privacy, right? Because that's something that uh, I think in some sense, like the market will demand it, right? And that's kind of an open question. Well, we have like this idea of confidentiality where you're kind of trusting someone won't reveal your information rather than like true privacy assumption, which is where you're trusting like the cryptography that's actually like concealing your information.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. Like I do have to say that from my personal like perspective, and it could be wrong, and I hope I'm wrong, is that generally in like the Western consciousness, you have a public-private partnership and you have powers on the back end, and people can invest in the prison that they live in. They're happy because then you have like the profit incentive, right? We've seen this already with a lot of um, I don't know, you can look at Gmail, you could look at Facebook, you can look at a lot of like these public-private partnerships that have in the back end that end up giving way too much data information. Um, doesn't really benefit users other than like the user experience of it, which even then is somewhat hard to argue, I guess, in terms of I don't know. It's yeah, I think I think there's always there's always an equal opposite polarity, right? It's like thermodynamics when it comes to, I don't know, energy and probably also culture too, where, if we do see more institutional adoption and we do see more kind of surveillance and tracking compliance based tooling that's forced on people, yeah, I do think that that is like the best narrative privacy projects and like resilient neutral money has ever seen,
So
right?
so so mainstream blockchain adoption, right?
Hmm.
I think it's so vast and so different. DJ, and if you have a question, pop it in there, no problem.
Yeah.
It's so vast and different that it's going to be such a myriad of things out there, right? I think we're going to see a ton of centralization, a ton of controlled assets, right? As you said, that you can lock down and you don't really have control of it. Um, but we're going to see that. We're going to see blockchain adoption to where you don't even have an idea that the blockchain is happening in the background, right? Like you're interacting with something and boom. Like I was thinking the other day, like with all these AI fakes out there, right?
Hmm.
And you can't trust videos or pictures anymore. If Joe's going to publish a video, what better way to signify that Joe is the owner of that video and actually publish it by putting the checksum of the video in a transaction on chain signed with Joe's wallet? Then we know right off the bat that it's Joe's kind of thing. So those kind of things can be in the background. People won't even know that it's a case, but it's easily look up, and it's resilient because it's on tons of different nodes and that kind of thing. To the point where we also have peer-to-peer financial institutions where you have the Bank of Joe, the Bank of QX, and all that kind of stuff. I don't think it's going to be one thing and that's it. We have to be
No.
ready for the fact that you know peer-to-peer
Well,
might be
I
a big
think
chunk, but
some,
it might be an outlier as well at some point.
yeah, to some degree, I think we need to get, like, take a step back and realize like what is a blockchain? It's a ledger. Like it's really
Yeah.
not like from a close up perspective. It's a ledger that's just replicated around the world. Hopefully, like if you have a like a single signer ledger, I don't know why blockchain is really the way, but um a lot of the best properties of something like Bitcoin itself had to do with the fact that it's distributed enough that it's kind of unstoppable, right? Like that's really where I don't know, I started to gain interest in this space, is this idea of saying, okay, if we can create neutral money, and it's this system out there that anybody with an internet connection can potentially connect with or interact with, you just remove so many barriers of like trade and commerce and expression and exchange between people, right?
Yeah.
And so when you get into like, okay, it's a centralized system, I don't see why it's even worth mentioning, to be honest. I mean, there are other database structures that are probably more performant, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and that plays into the part where I don't think at least a peer-to-peer decentralized let's take the US, right? And some of the major players, right? I think
Yep.
that's gonna be an obvious adoption of centralized structures that they have control over, right? I don't think that peer-to-peer decentralized networks are going to be widely embraced by governments per se, right? They're built for the individual so that they're on the same footing as the person with insider information or the person with more money or that kind of thing. So I think we'll see that kind of peer-to-peer adoption on a broader scale across the world, as opposed to let's hope that the US government picks up Ergo or something. It's not going to happen, right?
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
interesting to see how, any type of internet technology can potentially like remove boundaries, right? Where then, like a Discord channel or Telegram or Signal or wherever, and we're talking to kind of a global audience in a frictionless way. We're communicating, we're kind of exchanging ideas. And so this idea where, if you do have these internet protocols, you can open markets, which is powerful, right? I think that's ultimately like the main interesting use case for stable coins in a way, is it's like you have this ability to um, expand the dollar's reach into kind of a cross-border environment without having to deal with exchange markets, right? You use internet technology to bypass a lot of the physical infrastructure that you normally have to deal with. And so we probably will see a lot of adoption of dollars. We already have with like USDT. You know, that's one of its more interesting aspects. Has always been these um, local money exchanges that will then kind of create their own conversion and kind of ramp people to the dollar or dollar exposure. Uh, you know, and kind of circumvent whatever system they're in. So I do think there's value there, right? It's just a question of, in my mind, it's a question of like data availability for the user and control functions in the back end, but that I'm just not a fan of.
Yeah, I can see tiered blockchain ledger tiers. Essentially, with centralized blockchains, we'll only expose this part of the transaction or the chain to you at this tier, or always ways to sell the data and that you're collecting. Absolutely crazy. But you're talking about stable, right?
Mhm.
I briefly read an article that things like gold, silver, are becoming more attractive stable options, or that kind of thing, as opposed to the US dollar, right?
Well, I think that many people have called the dollar what, like the cleanest dirty shirt in terms of currencies.
Yeah,
Where there's a lot of debt backing the dollar, right?
right.
We're in a weird position, like um, in a lot of different ways with humanity. It's just honest. Like the debt burden globally is huge. We've gone through this rapid acceleration of technology to where we kind of went through like the mechanical age and then the electronic age and then the internet age. Now we're entering into like the machine mind
Yep,
age,
yep.
and
Absolutely crazy that
yeah, and
we're alive at this time.
it's like my somebody's great grandfather had an outhouse in the field, right?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
and now we're moving into the age of like artificial intelligence emerging
Yeah.
and all kinds of just
Now
like
you can synthesize a dead parent's voice. Like, I could synthesize my mother's voice and feed it all the emails she's ever sent me ever, and then have a chat with her. It's like it's insane. Absolutely
yeah.
insane.
So I mean, technology is accelerating, um, and I guess social consciousness hasn't really. I don't think it's caught up with where the edge of that is. It's kind of a wake effect where it takes a while to bleed through to the
Yep,
masses.
yep.
But kind of the tip of the spear there is moving faster and faster and faster, and so it's going to be disruptive, right? I would say that, like when you look at technology as it develops, it's a force multiplier, and so we are moving again through probably a decade of disruption, where everybody that has a shovel is going to get displaced by somebody that has a backhoe, and I think there's a lot of I don't know. People have a certain awareness of that, in my opinion.
Yeah, it'll be
So
interesting. It'll be
yeah,
interesting.
we're in
I
for
just
fun time.
Yeah. I don't know. How do we get to a point where people start I mean, America, it's tough, right? In America, you sit back and you say, "Oh, I don't agree with this administration, but I'm not gonna do anything about it." So you have this kind of, lack of motivation to make changes because 'cause you're busy yourself and you're faced with everything. So
Yeah, I've
my
never really given a shit, to be honest.
yeah, well, that too. But
The system is what it is, man. Like
but then
I
but
live in
then
a state that goes where it goes, right?
but then
So then what do I do? I just watch and try to, be good to the people that are in my local network,
yeah, yeah, that's true,
you know?
that's true. Local network's important, but I'm thinking about, like, not just the US, outside of the US. At one point, at one point, if the knowledge is given, do these people start saying, "You know what? I'm going to take control of, my own assets, my own ability to make sure that somebody's not screwing me over." These tooling that can guarantee kind of a predictable manner in how it's being executed, right? At what
Mhm.
point does the average person that is being affected, like, we got it easy, right? I mean, we got it really easy, right? We have jobs, we have house,
Mhm.
we have those kind of things, so we can go to the bank, get a loan, we can take money out of the bank, but that's
Sure.
not the majority of the world, right? So my question is, how do we I guess it's a slow burn, right? Eventually, it's a slow burn. How do we get that information in the people's hands that it really does matter for their livelihood about these kind of changes that'll make a big difference in their lives?
No,
Um,
I tend to think that, like, the best way to do something like that is teach by example. And,
yeah, yeah.
if you're talking about, like, more mature financial tools, the crypto space is a bit retarded. Like,
Oh, yeah.
we have to be
I'm gonna have to
full
edit
on.
that one out, Joe.
I think we're live.
Oh yeah, shoot, we're live.
Sorry. No, but, listen, a lot of the times if somebody that's not familiar with crypto asks me what I do, I say I try to work with open source financial software
Right.
versus crypto. And, then it's an interesting conversation. Well, what is that? And I say, well, it's like this ability to see and understand the system that you interact with versus,
Yeah.
you go
How
to
do
the
you
bank.
argue against that? That's gotta sound attractive to almost anybody.
Yeah, then people are genuinely interested because it's like, well, I've never thought that, I go to the bank and I have no idea no idea what their balance sheet is, or no idea who's holding the mortgage to my house because it's been auctioned off X amount of times, or the
Right.
title to the
Or your
car.
your
Like,
student loans go through, like, 10 different freaking people
yeah,
through
so
all the
there's
management.
like,
Absolutely insane.
if you get into this idea of having um different assumptions in the system, the financial system, people are interested in that. Right? Because many people are, they've, either they've thought about it and, it's kind of a wild thing, or they haven't thought about it. You pay off your house, who owns the title to your house?
Yep.
It usually gets, passed, packaged and passed around. Who owns
Yeah.
the title to your car? Who owns your student loan?
Yeah.
Like, uh, and that type of uh, inability to see into our financial system is fascinating. Yet, the mirror is put on the user, where they're constantly wanting to know, who are you, how much do you have, and where did it come from?
Yep.
In
Distraction.
yeah,
Distraction.
which in some sense is a very weird relationship. If I just met you and I'm saying, hey, QX, can you look after my money? And you're saying, well, who are you? And you know, where'd you get this? And me, as the person who actually has the money that's handing it to you, what do I get in terms of transparency from that side?
Yeah.
Interesting. You know, it's so normal that nobody questions it, but there's a lot of things in this world that are so normal that nobody really questions it. And I think that money is one of the things that, when you really start to question, what's happening, in terms of, like, the system itself, it's a deep and weird hole.
It is. And you're talking about, the money makers that made me think, like, on chain, right? I can even the layman essentially can see a transaction in your wallet and see where it's going, see what it's up. They might not be able to read a smart contract, but at least they can go to GitHub, ingest the whole thing into an AI, and maybe ask it what it's doing, so they might have an idea.
Sure.
When
Sure,
you
we're
si
getting there.
when you sign off for a mortgage, like, you sign, you're not reading those 800 pages that you're signing, right? You have no clue, just kind of the general ideas of what's happening with that paper that you're signing, or that stack of papers
That's
you're
one of the
signing.
more interesting aspects of, like, learning machine models, really, is this idea of being able to digest large amounts of information, and spit something out to the user, like, hey, something is off here, right?
Right.
Because it takes a lot of time and energy to dive through that. Can you hear the dog?
I love it, it's fine, it's a good background noise, don't worry about it, Joe.
All right.
There's probably, like, an 8-foot bear out back trying to swat him or something.
Yeah, who knows?
Let's see, we got a question here really quick. Kareem says Spectrum Finance needs to come back strong. I get it, but they don't necessarily need to. We've got all the contracts online. We've got the that are open source. We've got the UI that's open source. Anybody can pick it up and start cranking out more features. Mu Finance did it. They took the front end and did a ton of optimization tweaks to it, and are
True.
using the smart contracts for the pools. So anybody can do it. That's a beauty of it. I don't think I say we gotta try to stop creating idols, right? We got to stop creating like, oh, this is a thing
I
that's
think
going
we
to
gotta
save us
just
or that
push
kind of
ideas,
thing. Yeah,
you know? I think that's the better option, is just ideate and push
yeah,
for ideas.
yeah.
There are some interesting, options for decentralized exchange that haven't been explored on Ergo, and they'd be really cool to see. Um,
Joe, I'm just waiting for you to build a Dex into Rosen Bridge.
to build a DEX into Rosen Bridge?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think it's better to build around Rosen Bridge. And the reason why is because you have a system that doesn't rehypothecate assets, holds collateral one to one. And when you start to seek yield or swaps internally, you like create a much messier situation in terms of being able to audit the fact that there's no rehypothecation, right? So you could get into like cross chain swaps. It's doable, but it's not necessarily um, changing like the protocol of the bridge itself.
Right.
I think sometimes like there's a way to make Rosen faster that's relatively straightforward.
Right. Rosen
Basically,
Fastlane.
what you would do is, you would require a premium fee on the person that's bridging, and, you would use the bridge protocol in the background, and you would simply have liquidity providers that front an element of, like, weaker assumptions, release funds, and then get paid as the original transaction goes through. And
Yeah, you
so
want fast? Pay a premium, right? Yep.
that's kind of how the
Mm.
banking system works, right? You can send something faster and add a little bit of, you know.
Oh, speaking of Rosen and Fastlane and that kind of stuff, I was helping out a guy who's spinning up a watcher
Mhm.
on Ergo, I believe, first, and he's looking at Cardano. And his one of his questions was, um, do you can I use the same collateral, the 30,000 Rosen and the 800 erg, can I use the same collateral for Cardano and Ergo? And I was like, no. I said it's a completely separate set of collateral. You have to actually run a separate watcher. You can't just put both
Mhm.
configs in the same file. And that sounds like a bummer to the person running it, but that's the beauty of Rosen, is that you're forcing a distributed method, even if the same person running 3 watchers, right? I'm running it
You
on
have to
probably
have an
three
economic
different
call.
computers. Yeah, I'm running it on 3 different computers on 2 different networks. So, you're forcing kind of this distribution, right? Of course, some people are gonna run onto the same machine. Gotcha. But
Mhm.
still, the smart thing is I'm gonna run my watchers on 3 different machines because I have them. Because if one machine goes down, I don't lose out on all 3 profits. I only lose out on 1 profit until I fix it, and then the other 2 machines are still picking up profits for the chains that I'm on. So, with that model that you're doing, you're kind of forcing this spread out decentralization even among individuals who are doing more than one watcher set. So, I think it's a brilliant idea that you're requiring liquidity for both, staking liquidity for both, for any chain that you go on, for each watcher essentially. So, that was a
Yeah, it's
good.
just an economic friction to create civil
Exactly.
resistance,
Yep.
that's why it's there.
Awesome. All right, we've got another question. DJan wants to know if Ergo is Kushti's main thing or he's got a side hustle. Also, same question for developers. Where's money coming from to finance Ergo development? A good question.
Oh, that's a good question.
Mm,
Let's see, I've worked with, Kushti for quite a while. I don't think he's actually been paid by anybody since about 2021.
I know.
Uh,
I don't think so.
and so, like, it's a question of saying, "Okay, like, why?" Like, why would somebody put, years of their life into, building something that is subject to hyper volatility and is subject to people that are constantly aggressive and people that are constantly quite pushy and you have like no like direct financial incentive to do that in terms of salary. It's because he number one, he enjoys developing. That's like gets him excited, is to read research papers and think, okay, what is possible. But actually the thing that probably interests him the most is kind of the idea of free banking. And I think that just comes from his perspective of the world. Seeing kind of the state of the world, seeing technology, seeing what's
Right.
potentially possible and how that could benefit and like change systems and improve people's lives. And I don't know, a lot of crazy shit happens on planet Earth because of our money systems.
Greed, money. Yep.
Yeah, well,
Yep.
I mean, it's like the ability to print money is the ability to fund wars. You usually have like hyper centralization and Cantillon effects and like the downstream effects of that, kind of warp quite a lot in
Yeah,
our reality.
not just like, you have the power, you have the money printing. Look at the US right now, right? They're classic, they're prolific money printers. We are. And not only that, but we have the power to actually hurt other economies, right? So we can not only print our own money, but we can then hurt other economies strategically during that process to even
Yeah,
bolster our dollar even more. So it's freaking insane.
money
Absolutely
is a
insane.
tool of power and control. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a weird system, right? So, I guess from some high level, the question is if you can change the like emission consensus around money, and you can change the distribution mechanics around money, and you can build systems that are more transparent, um, that also offer the potential to be more private, that also offer all of these, I don't know. I think that as systems advance, a lot of like exotic financial instruments that were at one point only reserved for the select few
Yep.
will become common, and then things will get interesting, right? Um, so
Yeah.
I don't know. I think his motivation is just simply based on where his passion is and where his understanding of how technology could potentially change things.
No, I
To
agree.
where I would say one of the things that tends to get Alex the most like excited is the idea of free banking, which is in a way very very different than like the layer one like blockchain attitude, right?
Commercial attitude. Yeah, 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 100%. And it doesn't take much to learn that about Kushti, right? Read his forum
Well,
posts, check him out on Twitter, and it's very apparent early on that that's his attitude and that's his core principle of supporting that kind of self-sovereignty of your
yeah,
own bank, right?
it's a
Yeah.
matter of saying like there's a lot of people that don't want to touch the money systems in the world; they want to enhance it, and we're seeing that with like stablecoin adoption. Well, I think the funnier thing to do is touch the money, right? Touch the money, change the systems.
Yeah.
And crypto's kind of gone full circle to where like we started it kind of like fuck the central banks, and now it's literally let them power the central banks and take bonds and um, you know mint dollars, which is a wild turn of events. But I don't know, different time, different era, I guess.
Yeah. Second part of that question is, where is money coming from to finance ergo development? And that leads to a great answer, and that speaks to the resiliency of ergo, right? There's money coming from, all right, so there's money from the EF for
Mhm.
bounties, right?
Yeah,
And
we
then
have some.
there's project money, right? There's projects that have posted or have started projects and gotten support funding. Look at Palmyra, look at Crux Finance, look at the Mu Finance, look at all those kind of things on Ergo so far. But the crux of the matter is that the idea is that, and that makes us resilient, right? Is there's no funding to dry up.
Mhm.
Kushti's
We're poor.
developing as he is. What's that?
I said we're poor. That's
Yeah,
always the
exactly.
case.
So people are developing because they believe in the cause of there
Mhm.
should be some fair system that's out there for anybody to use, right? And you can't dry that up, right? That's a cause that people are willing to pick up and fight for.
Well,
So
I think it simply goes to like this idea of adding value to a system. If you add value to a system, you enhance it, right?
yeah.
And so a lot of the developers that I know that work on Ergo, they're adding value to the system to enhance the value of the system. That's why they develop.
Right, and that's the beauty of Ergo, right? Because the Ergo community and Ergo itself, that's literally on the Ergo manifesto about what its purpose is for. So, go to another chain such as Ethereum. you'll be drowned out, right? You start speaking like this. Well, let's make a fair mining. Well, let's say back when Ethereum was proof of work, right? You do a fair mining initiative where you have something like lithium with distributed miners collectively coming together, right? That possibly could be drowned out because that's not of interest to people trying to make a buck or make millions of dollars off that kind of thing. So on Ergo, it's the intrinsic value of the chain is that we're building for something better, right? Yeah,
Yeah, that's
of
the
course.
goal.
Of course, there are people in there that want to double or triple or 10 times or 100 times their
Mhm.
their investment on that. Okay, you deserve it actually if you're investing in a project like Ergo early on. Sure, whatever, you deserve that kind of thing. But I'd say the meat of the people that are here in Ergo, the developers that are working on it for that cause, right? They're here for a reason because they believe in what Ergo is and what it represents. They believe in the mission statement, and that's why they're here, I think. So these bull markets, these bear markets, it doesn't matter. There's always somebody that believes in Ergo that's still building and continue to
Yeah,
make
in
really
a way,
cool stuff.
that's where Bitcoin came from. In a way, there was no like direct funding sources from the chain. It was just proof of work,
Yep.
right? And you can look at Litecoin, proof of work. Uh, that's changed a lot, right? Like the incentive structure in crypto has gotten a lot different um, over time. Or I would say just things are way, way, way more centralized. Um, but yeah, I think that if you're going to raise funds, I've always been an advocate for build a product that's public facing and open source, right? And which is interesting because that's probably backwards for how most people fundraise today,
No,
right?
I said that to the blockchain group that I gave a lecture to. I
Hmm.
said, the scary thing about open source is that anybody can take your stuff and spin it up and try it themselves. I said, so the challenge that our developers face, the community developers on Ergo when they open source their projects, are that they now need to think that, okay, the code's all open source, anybody can take it and spin it. So I need to come up with some unique property that makes me better than anybody else that would be trying to run my code, right? And that could be customer service, that could be the interface that they're pumping from. So it opens up a whole new world of competition with this open source stuff that doesn't exist with closed source stuff, right? It's
Well, I
it's
don't know.
it's absolutely amazing to watch.
I tend to think of that from a totally different angle. Man.
All right, let's hear it.
So if somebody rebuilds a Rosen bridge that's better and it leads to more adoption, fuck yeah, do it.
Right.
If someone
You may lose
let's
half your team to that new company, right? Fuck it, right?
it's a matter of progress, right? Um I don't know, look at Bitcoin, or I don't know, any type of science you build on the shoulders of those before you, right? That is progress. That is how progress is made. So if I come up with an open source idea that I pursue, and it's retooled in a way that is better, that's awesome, right? Because what am I trying to get rid of is like Rosen is trying to disrupt middlemen, right? If we can get around the friction of that in terms of listing access and access to liquidity, amazing, do it. If we look at like Lethos, um, if we look at
I
Lethos,
think
it's a
your
matter
puppy
of,
agrees.
yeah. If we look at Lethos, it's a matter of like putting the best assumptions to miners, right? If somebody else can do that, do it. I think that it's the idea itself is beneficial because of what it provides. So if somebody can rebuild it in a way that's better, I'm happy.
Right? That's scary. And I agree that that's one point of it, right? That's one way to look
Mhm.
at it, but it's tough to attract attract a lot of develop. You got to be kind of a developer with big balls, I guess. And well, I hate to use big balls. Elon Musk has ruined the big balls thing.
Give me one
But
second.
yeah. I'll keep talking. So I
Yeah.
feel it's tough to you have to get a really strong developer that's really confident with those kind of things and recognize that I need to kick ass and oh, hey puppy. Hey buddy, that's a puppy with little needle teeth. I really need to kick butt and give something that somebody else isn't going to give if I want to stay ahead of the curve. And
Mhm,
that drives progress for both sides, right? So
mhm.
I think it's, you know, I think it's great in that matter. Let's see what else. What else were the questions? This a guy gonna bite you? Oh,
Maybe.
what a cutie! What a cutie! Let's see. Any other questions? Smart AI Learning says currently AI can generate and play 3D games within a model, as seen in Google projects. If AI generated mining becomes possible, how might it impact other algorithms? I don't think they're. I mean, mining is still going to still going to be requiring of power, right? You're still going to need something to actually uh, computate the um the problem that the blockchain is presenting you with. So I'm not sure what you're asking that smart AI, but perhaps you're speaking about generated mining. That doesn't make sense to me.
Not
You,
sure.
Joe?
I have no idea.
Yeah. So as far as mining goes, you're still going to need. There's no way around solving the problem, right? Right. Even if you use AI to try to solve the problem, you're still using a crap ton of video cards to do it, right? So the power consumption might equal out the same there, if that's what you're asking for. If you're asking for other things about like if AI or quantum computers essentially can figure out that kind of thing, well, Ergo's kind of got that figured out already in that. Joe's idea on sigma chains or side chains can create quantum resistant chains that you can move your store of value over to protect it. Things like that can always be made. Ergo can kind of stay on the head of the curve like that. So that's what I love about Ergo too, Joe, is that the ability to pivot's freaking insane with a project like Ergo, right?
When you have open source code,
Yeah,
you can always tweak it,
insane.
you can always modify it, you can always extend it. So it gives you a lot of flexibility.
Yeah, yeah, I say the same thing
Anyways,
at our college. We have we're one of the smaller colleges inside Cornell University, the architecture
mhm,
department. And I always say to my counterparts, they're like, "Oh, what are you doing?" And what are you doing? I'm like, "Oh, I just spun this up the other day and I threw it at the students." They're like, "What?"
mhm.
And I'm like, "Yeah, who cares?" you know, this is a cool thing that we're trying to do, and the students can test it out for us. And if they like it, they like it. If they don't, they don't. And people in bigger entities just can't do that, and especially when things are closed source. So, yeah, I think Ergo really champions at that where they have the ability to just pivot on a dime. Kushti can say, "Oh, hey, let's try to think of this," or a community dev can come on and do that. But yeah, that's what I love about Ergo, the ability to pivot on a freaking dime about that kind of stuff. Your dog's adorable, Joe.
Yeah, thank
He really likes you.
yeah.
FC says good night, Cannon, good night. Juan Contreras says what happened to ErgoPad. You know, I think people look at ErgoPad and they're like, okay, that's a bummer that there's no token launch system on Ergo anymore. I look at that as a success, honestly. That there's not a lot of demand for a token launch platform. Now you may say, okay, there's not many projects starting on Ergo, blah blah blah. That's why it's not needed. But the way I look at it is that there's so much tooling involved in Ergo with airdrops tools, with token distribution tools. Sigma Lock should be coming out anytime now. We're waiting for Kushti when he gets a free second to review the contracts. That's all. There's so many things and toolings on Ergo that things like Bober, things like Greasy Sex, things like what else? All these other projects can launch and do token distribution without even using a platform like that. So I see that as not only hey, it sucks that ErgoPad can't sustain their model on Ergo, but the decks are kind of stacked against them with that kind of open source tooling that anybody can use and jump onto. Did you send your puppy away, Joe?
No.
Maybe he needs some brandy, Joe.
Yeah. Give me a minute.
No, don't worry about it, Joe. It's not loud. Don't worry about it.
Alright.
Really, it's not a bother.
So what was
Um,
the question?
I was just what happened to ErgoPad. Do you have little ergo embroidered um little ergo embroidered things for your puppies? Oh, Joe hit the wrong button. All right. Let's see. We can jump into the let's see if he's still here actually. What did he mute? One moment. There's he just muted his video, that's all. No biggie. He's probably spanking his puppies. All right, so back to let's see if we have any questions we can answer while he's gone. Um New World Disorder says you can't change the world, but you can change your world. Yeah, exactly. I
Oh, you
think
can change your network too.
right, right. That was back when we were talking about outside of the US,
Mhm.
recognizing that these toolings are great for them. Yeah, I agree. Um yeah. Yeah, I mean the centralized systems are louder, much louder and much more appealing to people, but I think slowly by slowly we'll get more and more people over to the side of where you feel like there's a benefit to being in control of your own bank, of your own resources. Um, yeah, I think we're in the infancy stages of it. That's for sure. That is
Yeah,
for sure.
I think we're pretty early in what these protocols will be capable of.
Did you beat your dog, Joe?
No, just outside.
You got a
But
bone you can throw him?
yeah, just throw a ball.
So I used to live in before I lived in town here where I am now. I
Mhm.
used to live in the boonies. We had 35 acres, not much to Colorado standards, Joe, but it was pretty
Yeah.
good for New York standards. So we had 35 acres. You know, dogs used to love to run outside, right? You just let them outside at, whatever time they'd come back
Mhm.
when they were ready, kind of thing. But those puppies would bring back like deer ribs or like a whole leg of a deer. Your dogs do that to you? Sometimes it's just this
Oh,
huge
yeah,
bone in the yard. You're like, okay, where the hell did that come from?
happens.
And you get the dewormer out. Then you get the shots out. All right, Mark the Shark. Mark the Shark, everybody. Mark the Shark's got a question, but Mark the Shark is in Florida right now. He's going to the Mining Disrupt conference. He's
Mhm.
going to spread the glory of GPU mining and peer-to-peer networks. So that's going to be awesome that Mark's there. We've never been to Disrupt before. It's mainly ASICs focused, I imagine, Joe, right? Bitcoin ASICs focused.
Probably. Probably.
So it's gonna be nice to have him there, putting the GPU mining in people's ears, the word of Ergo, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's awesome that
Don't
he's showed
don't worry about your dog, Joe. We can hear you. It's no big deal. Just shake it off. Really, don't worry about it.
All right.
All right, Mark the Shark says with subblocks could make a tool to compete with Zell. Seems it runs similar to a blockchain. Zelle is what? Zelle's a cash transaction app, right? Transferring money to each other, peer to peer. Right. That's what I feel the attractiveness of subblocks will be, right? So while one thing people need to remember is that finality is key, right? And finality is a security that DApp providers and central exchanges are going to rely on. So
Mhm.
whether if Ergo settles in 2 minutes and they say 10 blocks is what we trust that there's not going to be a rollback on the chain. I don't think there's ever been a rollback on Ergo, but whatever. Subblocks doesn't really change that from a DApp, from a DApp or a central exchange point of view, right? Because as Kushti said, these are kind of weak blocks, right? So they're still going to want some sort of confirmation in there that gives them the finality and the trust that they can say, yeah, okay, you've transferred us $10,000. Go ahead and take it out of your bank. What subblocks is going to be a boon for is for peer-to-peer transactions, right? It's going to allow me to transfer funds to Joe within a few seconds, then hop off that with chain transactions, all over that kind of thing. So yes, Mark's totally right. Mark, that subblocks will be a great addition for these kind of really fast peer-to-peer transactions that you can kind of have a soft finality for. So yeah, looking forward to that. I think Kushti just released RC3 for mining testnet. I'm still on RC2 for mining testnet, so there's no real need to upgrade. But yeah, excited to see the progress on that. Your dog's all right, Joe?
Yeah.
Joe, it's like babysitting 3-year-olds. You're babysitting your nieces, your nephew's dogs.
Yeah.
It might be easier with 3-year-olds, Joe. I tell you, they'd be asleep by now, I think.
I hope so. No, there's a lot of potential applications that opens up. The big question is just going to be like the assumptions of settlement, right?
Exactly. Yep. So I think, yeah, honestly, I think it's going to be a big plus to peer-to-peer kind of things. You walk up to a friend, you send them money, boom, it's done. It's there with subblocks. You want to withdraw $30,000 from exchange, you send $30,000 worth of ergs to the exchange. Yeah, they're going to probably still wait for 10, 20 main blocks for that kind of transaction to finalize. So don't think that that's gonna make it any faster there. But yeah. What else, Joe?
Hmm?
What else? What else, Joe?
No, I don't know. Are there any other questions?
My sister got me this candle for a white elephant gift at Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't burnt it yet.
Yeah.
No other questions. We can keep going. Let's talk about. Why don't we talk about the dev updates, and then we can come back to shooting the shit if we get there and we're still awake. Sound good? All right. Let's see. I'm gonna hit the dev update button. It's gonna switch scenes. Oh, beautiful. Perfect. All right. You have the dev update in front of you, Joe?
Mm-hmm.
All right, perfect. The first one, this is from 319. This is ANNBR with Nautilus. They released version 1.1.0. And since we haven't done an update yet since 1.0, everybody should make sure to upgrade to 1.0. Absolutely beautiful, very beautiful wallet for the Chrome plugin extension. Takes dark mode. It looks fantastic. Love it. So he released version 1.10, polished Sigma USD DApp implementation, fixed a ledger connection bug, fixed Firefox compatibility issues, added semi-automatic release CI, which is built to different targets, and release happens in the CI workflow. Publishing and stores is done manually after functional and security tests. Minor UI tweaks. Next up, add internationalization support. That's a big word to say for 3 cups of Peace Gojo.
All right. Looks like next we have Kushti. He's been working on the Ergo protocol and reference client, doing some research and development. With Scripto 3.1.0, with Scala 3 support released, along with new version for Scorx utils and dbox. So Jozniak's been on that for PRs, working towards that end. So that'd be nice to see Scala 3. Ergo 6.0.0, RC3 has been released. A couple of fixed PRs for 6.0 is merged into the 6.0 branch. He's working on polishing to propose for review. So everybody out there, please take a look. Looks like polishing 6.0.0 PR for the node to propose for review as well. For subblocks, Forks resolution is done and covered with tests, planning the peer-to-peer layer for subblocks propagation. So that's another step.
And also, people who are running nodes, please, if you're starting up a new node, don't take 6.0, right? Drop down. Those are pre-releases. It's not going to work on the normal node. You have to drop down to 5.2.1 or whatever the latest 5 is, kind of thing. So make sure you do that. And also, FYI, community note update. The Rocks database loves SSDs. Man, that thing is fast, Joe.
Yeah.
For some reason, my node on my ergo.aep.cornell.edu Explorer just chunked out. It toasted. I can't remember why. It's been too long. So I had to rebuild it from scratch, and I used the latest Rocks database. And holy cow,
Yeah,
that thing is fast. If I go to my SigUSD Oracle wallet, usually on the old node that took about 15 seconds, 20 seconds to load. That thing's loaded in 5 seconds, because that thing has like 30, 40, 50,000 transactions from SigUSD Oracle. But yeah, Rocks database, if anybody has the time and they want to do it redo it to Rock's database. It loves SSDs super fast. It's fantastic. All right, let's see what else we have. Kushti says chain cache. He's got a paper out. It's done. Will appear on preprint server shortly. Awesome. I'm really excited for chain cache. Chain cache is like the thing that I don't know. It feels like we're taking power away from the government with this kind of thing. If it goes on, if people actually use it and use it for what it's made, it means that entities and groups can actually mint notes based on their reserves, and people can pass them out and actually use them as forms of payment for things that represent the reserve. Like, how cool is that? How cool is that for an entity to be able to mint their own currency, right? That's flipping awesome. And I'm not talking, you may say, okay, well, why don't they just mint a token and sell their token and that kind of thing? This is totally different. This is literally a note that is backed up by a reserve from a treasury of an entity that does it, or backed up by anything else. It could be backed up by physical goods at some point, depending if they can figure out a best way to rationalize that on chain. But yeah, super cool, super excited for chain cache. It's going to be really cool. Joe, it's your dogs are fine. Don't stress out, buddy. All right, what else we got? I'll go with Dexy since it's still Kushti. Dexy, he says C8 deployed UI for testnet. They've got the XYZ link right there for ErgFi. Please give it a try. On Sigma Nut Rust, Python bindings done by Dusk and pushed to PyPy. Pushed to PyPy. I've reviewed and approved another couple of 6.0 PRs by Dusek. Great. Looks like you got Kobe Celador.
All right, so looks good to be back. Good to have you back, Kobe. The Ergo node, open API fix, issue 2199. It's worked on. Open CI, issue 2202. With Sigma State, getting to know the Merkle trees for Sigma script. It's like he reviewed one of Josniak's PR node reviews for Sigma State and Scripto.
All right, let's see what else we have. Oh, holy cow, Joe. We've got a Padilla update from Louis Vatra.
Really?
I need a sip of Pisco after this. All right, Louis Vatra. We got Padilla. Fix an issue breaking display of token amount for some tokens and send funds proposals. Resulted in NAN. Tracking down a bug that happens around start of new staking cycle, causing the stake to be corrupted. A restart of the off-chain bot fixes this, but not ideal, so trying to make permanent fix. If anybody has Padilla sitting on the wallet, please join the general Padilla DAO, right? Stake that Padilla, get more Padilla, and participate in voting on changes on the overall Padilla DAO. So you're missing an opportunity there if you're sitting on Padilla in your wallet. Or the crux, added better air handling on some of the endpoints, inspired by tokens being minted with funky registers. I wonder what Louis Vatra's funky definition is. All right, you got Joseph Meiser.
All right. On Bene. I've been putting the final touches to finally close the first version. I've done a great job to significantly improve the front end. Once we have everything tied up, we'll proceed to implement support for other tokens besides Ergo. With Celldot.
With Celia, no new updates here. I'm still working on refining and maturing what I have to take confident steps forward, although I'm happy with how things are going. Joe, I think we need some meme coins with your dogs. I think we need some dog meme coins. Do your dogs ever sleep, Joe? Do your dogs ever sleep? All All right, what else we have here? Let's see. Anything else? We've got some debugging going on, some cross help here. Issues requested for Sigma Rust. They're going to contribute to it, and they're prepping for the developer chat tomorrow. Yeah. Cool. That's it for that chat there. We switch back to our double window here. Okay, we're switched back. All right. Let's see what else do we have for a question here. We have no more questions. We have would be sick to see a Stripe type app for Natalie to plug into this AI generated games, Mark says. By the way, Mark's developed, for those of you who don't know, Mark's fine-tuned a LLM to, what did he do? He fine-tuned an LLM to respond back with node queries or something like that. I've had too much piece code to really center on exactly what he did. It's been too long, but something like that. So Mark does LLM tuning in his IRL life, in real life stuff. So he's really diving into that for Ergo. For those who don't know, Mark runs the Sigmonauts mining pool. If you guys are mining and you're mining to anything other than the SIGs pool, consider pointing to the SIGs pool because there's bonus tokens that are there. We also are the only pool that collects storage rent. So there's a lot of extra ergs in there that come out each week as well as bonus tokens. And there's we're on Telegram, big chat in there, super fun to hang out in there and chat. So there's no reason why you shouldn't join the SIGs pool there. There's my plug for the SIGs pool. What'd you do with your dogs? Did you strangle them, Joe?
No, I put the puppy in the box. It's like it's got the little cage.
The quiet box.
Quiet, yeah, the wire box.
Oh, that's funny. It doesn't try to bite the wire.
No. It's just like in a state of depression now.
It's
Bothering the
it's
other.
like crap. I screwed up.
Yeah, I probably should have started there, to be honest. But
No, it was cute hearing your pups, Joe. All right, what else? Anything else to chat about? It's 11:05. I'm sure my wife's in bed, so it doesn't matter what time I go to bed at this point.
all right.
What's new for Rosen, Joe? What's on the roadmap after Doge?
Oh, after Doge. I definitely like to get more focused on the Nervos bridge. I think that if we're going to talk about like EVM environments, there's definitely the possibility to go to something like Base or Ink, get into like the exchange sphere, just because there's liquidity there. If we're talking Bitcoin forks, probably Bitcoin Cash. It's a big community, and I don't know, generally is a little bit more, I would say, aligned with, kind of Ergo, UTXO, with some good development happening there through time. So let's see.
All right. I know there's some when the Sigmonauts there was like an ask to use some EF funds to help bolster either it was the Binance pool or the Ethereum. I think it was Pancake Swap. I think it was a Binance pool on Pancake or something like that. So I think the EF was like, yeah, we'll put up for a vote and it probably will pass. So I expect to possibly see some more liquidity in that pool. So that's super sweet. Oh, Byron asks when the US Erg meetup. Joe, you've got a building.
I have a place in Colorado Springs. If the community ever wants to have a US meetup, yeah, I've got keys to.
That's pretty central too. I think that's a good spot for it.
Yeah, I've got keys to a place in Colorado Springs.
What do we have? We got to have activity lists of like an Ergo hike where we hike to the summit of some mountain and.
I mean, it depends on the time of year. There's always stuff to do in and around Colorado, but it's pretty much downtown. So it's a good spot.
All right. I wonder how many people we get out there.
I don't know. I've always said I have keys. I don't really want to do anything more than that, and I think that's a pretty good contribution. So if the community gets
It's a
on,
building. You figure it out.
yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, I got a pretty busy life. I can't really. I don't have the bandwidth for that, but I do have a place. So if people want to make that happen, we could definitely do it.
Maybe we should talk about it more in the next couple of weeks or months to try to get more people interested. Um,
I've done my part.
yeah, you've done your part. You've offered, Joe.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So
What else do you have on the back burner besides Rosen? Anything else kicking around? You
no,
thinking about?
Lethos still working through the roll up contracts. A lot of potential edge cases to be aware of. So that's something. Just go slow, do it right, and everything will go kind of downhill from that point in terms of coast. It's like the hardest part of Lethos, probably. The humming
You
bot.
think we could get Cheese to come out to Colorado?
I don't know. Maybe if you ask him.
Hmm.
Yeah. What
So
else?
talk more about Lethos. What step are you at? I saw an update the other day.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember.
At this point, basically refactoring the roll-up contracts, right? At that point, everything from there is kind of downhill. It's just like, let's tweak it. Let's see how it performs. Play around with, kind of the lead token. So we'll actually have kind of a public test net after this next milestone, which would be real cool to see.
And this is not, how, well, let's take Rosen for example, right? Everything's written back to the Ergo chain, right? Lethos, if another chain wants to adopt it, there's no right back to Ergo chain for any of the settlements, right? It'll be purely on their chain if they rewrite it for their chain.
Yeah, we have the potential. We have the potential to take Lethos across, Bitcoin, Litecoin, just proof of work in general. So it is designed to be pretty modular.
So for those people watching that aren't familiar with Lethos, in short, it's an ability to kind of solo mine but still pool mine based on chain. So you don't have to join something like Hero Miners or Sigma.'s mining pool. You essentially solo mining, but still collectively you can join a decentralized pool. Essentially,
Yeah, you'll be able to join kind of a special type of mining pool that will allow you as the miner to build blocks, and you'll still have the potential to get shares. It's just how that's calculated and done is not a secret.
awesome.
I think somebody's happy I put the puppy in the box.
Yeah, I think that's a big thank you, Joe.
Yeah,
What's this one's name?
this is Bella.
Oh, Bella, Italian. Very nice. Or what kind of dog?
That's shepherd mix, I guess.
Oh, very nice. Would she be able to take your no, your chow could take everybody, right? There's no question about that.
No, she and the chow are friends.
Oh, that's sweet. That's very sweet. Do they does your chow sleep on your bed with you?
No, usually it posts up in front of the doors to the house.
Wait, really? Like guard dog?
Yeah, that's kind of their nature.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so he's got the house on lock 24/7.
Save you from wrench attacks, right, Joe?
Right.
All right. I think let's see how long we've been going on for. We've been going for an hour and 4 minutes, Joe. And Rustin just said good night. So if Rustin says good night and we don't have
Rustin's
anything
out,
else,
I'm out.
yeah, we don't have anything else to talk about. Let me finish this sip here.
All right, everybody. Thank you for coming. Sorry if the dogs were crazy. I'm watching an 18-month-old puppy, and it's kind of half velociraptor and half crackhead. So I'm doing my best.
All right,
Productivity has declined for like the last day, but what can you do?
all right, I got to make it back to the liquor shelf to put this away, and then got to stumble upstairs. I don't know if I'll make it. My wife might find me on the landing in the morning, Joe.
Oh, well, tell her I said I'm sorry.
Thanks everybody for watching. It's fun to do these live dev updates. We'll do them as often as we can get Joe to function at this hour.
All right, have a good one, everybody.
Ciao.
Thanks.